The Linux Action Show is created by Jupiter Broadcasting. It's sponsored by Ting. Go to last.ting.com to save off your first device or plan, and DigitalOcean. Go over to DigitalOcean.com and use our promo code LASTDigital, and then you can spin up your own Linux rig for free. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Linux Action Show episode 362. We're live at LinuxFest Northwest 2015, and my name is Chris.
My name is Noah.
Hey, Noah, good morning to you.
Good morning, Chris.
Are you awake? Are you okay?
Not only am I awake, and not only am I ready for an amazing show,
Are you fired up?
I think this might be my favorite Linux Action Show yet. Do you know why, Chris?
I'll tell you why, Noah. It's because of our Runs Linux this week. We have a huge show
That's
coming
correct.
up. I'm going to tell you what it is here in just a second, but first, let me tell you about the rest of the show. We're here at LinuxFest Northwest 2015. We're going to have people stop by at the booth and talk with us. We're going to have friends stop by and update us, and we have lots of interviews we've got in the can now, and we're doing the show here live at the floor, so we're doing that, obviously. Plus, in the news segment, we're going to talk about the new version of Debian that just shipped and all of the Ubuntu flavors and other things in the news. We've got the feedback, but first,
It's our picks.
it's our picks. And Noah, I think you should have the honor of announcing the Runs Linux this week.
So we obviously, we as a team, you get all of us together in one room. Some amazing things can happen in a pretty short amount of time. So before we were coming to LinuxFest Northwest, I'd contacted Chris and said, hey, would you be okay if I tried to get a Linux rig up so that we wouldn't have to use the, thing?
No, Noah didn't want to broadcast on a Mac.
I didn't want to
Just say it,
broadcast
Noah.
on a Mac,
Just say it.
and as true to my testament of my Linux ban hammer, trying to ban Windows and Mac off of everything I come across, I said, well, maybe we could try it. So we tried it about a week before, and I tried a couple pieces of software, and it wasn't quite working right.
A little shaky.
We tried SnowMix. We talked about that on the show.
That did not work.
Did not work at all.
No, SnowMix did not work for us.
So I get on the plane, I get out here, and of course, we didn't sleep Thursday, Friday, Saturday because we're working on Angela's Mac.
Who needs it? Who needs sleep,
Who
right?
needs sleep? You got plenty of time to sleep when
We
you're
have a huge
dead.
fest coming up for. What's the big deal?
Right. The problem was then after that, after not sleeping for like 4 days, I finally get to Sunday. Last is done. I'm like, whew, now I can relax the rest of the week.
What's the big deal now?
And then Chase had a family emergency.
Yeah, and so Chase, last year, he did a bang-up job. He really just nailed the live streaming, the switching, creating lower thirds on the fly as we brought guests in. So we said, Chase, you got to come back here again, but circumstances didn't work out, and he had all the gear.
Yeah.
So we had a backup piece of machinery, an old Hackintosh, but its time had passed. Either the motherboard or the CPU wouldn't work. We couldn't get it even to post.
Right.
And we didn't have another piece of machinery.
And on top of that, we didn't really have any software put onto the machine. So we tossed around a couple different ideas, and eventually I was in my hotel room. I was up to like 5 in the morning trying to get OBS working on my laptop. And eventually I come across this obscure forum post that says, you have to have proprietary graphics cards. So we go back, and thank God for System 76, because I can reload that machine in like 15 seconds flat.
Yeah.
And I get Ubuntu 14.04 LTS reloaded onto it.
On the Bonobes.
And we get OBS onto it, and lo and behold, it works. Well, that wasn't necessarily going to be the ideal streaming rig because, really we've got a lot of different USB devices, and it only has like 3 USB ports.
And we got a lot of capture that we need to record to spinning disks because of the amount of storage we need, which isn't great in a laptop.
Yeah, because it only had one SSD. So I kid you not, like 7:30 the night before we're leaving, we drive all the way to Renton, and we go into Fry's.
Which is about an hour and a half.
You really like Fry's.
I'll save that story for another time.
Okay.
I'm going to save that.
So,
I had a moment at Fry's again, and I got upset.
But it was highly entertaining. It would have made for great show content.
Well, it will sometime. I have to let it pass.
Yeah,
I'm still angry.
Yeah, okay. Get over your anger.
Okay.
Breathe. Feel the anger, Chris. So we get to Fry's. We buy a new motherboard. We get memory. We get the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
We get it home, and we're up to like 5 in the morning
again,
trying to get this computer to work. And as soon as I could pry Alan away from trying to do BSD tricks on Linux, turns out Linux can install just fine.
Yeah.
And we get OBS installed. We get all the driver. We didn't install any drivers because we are actually using the embedded Intel graphics driver, and it worked just great. And
so hold on now. Now you're going on to long story short. Noah overnight built us an OBS broadcasting rig, which we are now broadcasting this episode 362, live from the floor of LinuxFest Northwest 2015 under Linux using OBS, live with camera. Do some camera switching, Noah.
So
make it fancy with lower thirds. Look at this. All powered by Linux.
I think what it's fair to say, Chris, is that
the Linux
Jupiter
Action Show's live broadcast from LinuxFest Northwest runs Linux. That's awesome. It's really cool. Now, there's still some issues we're working out. We may or may not have lip sync by the time you're seeing this. I don't know. It doesn't matter, does it? Because it runs under Linux, and we can work those issues out and make a rig that we can take with us to other fests. So when we go to Linux Fest, we can broadcast there from Linux, which is super important to us. And so it might not be totally ready. Like, literally, we suspect The build that made it possible for us to do this was like 2 days old at the time we did this.
Yeah,
That's how down to the wire it was. It was a 2-day-old build that made this possible. So that's how much on the edge we are. I'm surprised we even did Ubuntu. We should have just gone rolling just to really.
We should have done Arch actually.
Yeah,
really.
right. Yeah. We probably will on my test rig.
But I think
show them the website too. The software we're using is obsproject.com. You guys have heard us talk about it before. obsproject.com. It's worth checking out. Go over there, and it works on some other operating systems too. I'm not familiar with those operating systems.
Yeah,
but I'm told it does work on those.
And the thing is, what other podcasting network is doing this? I mean, there's a lot of podcasting networks that claim to really like Linux, but how many of them have 100? I mean, you have Linux on your laptop. We have Linux on the broadcast machine. I have Linux on my laptop. We have no non-Linux devices. Who else can claim that?
Well, I know there's some podcasters that use Linux out there, but I think doing a live video production on location, I think this is a first.
Right, and the thing is, in some of the people, some of those guys, they'll use Google Hangouts, but that's really more of a vote of confidence to Google, not so much a vote of confidence to Linux.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
Yeah, that's very true. Hey, no, I'll tell you one way that helps make all this possible. Some of the Linux backend we use is our sponsor, and that's DigitalOcean, longtime sponsor of the Linux Action Show, and I recommend you guys check them out. Go over to DigitalOcean.com right now and rock our promo code LASTDigital to get a $10 credit. Then with the $10 credit, you can try out their $5 rig 2 months for absolutely free. DigitalOcean is a simple cloud hosting provider dedicated to offering the most intuitive and easy way for you, my friends, to spin up your own cloud server. You can get started in less than 55 seconds. $5 a month for the server. You can get 512 megabytes of RAM, a 20 gigabyte SSD, 1 terabyte of transfer, and data centers all up in this place now. They got them in Singapore, Amsterdam, London, New York, San Francisco, Germanizzle. They got a great data center in Germanizzle. You've heard of Germanizzle?
Izzle of the German.
That's where the cool Germans hang out.
Wow.
Germanizzle. They got a data center there hooked up to the Frankfurt thing with tons of bandwidth.
Can I rsync Izzle?
Yo, dude.
My droplet Izzle?
Dude, you can
in Germanizzle?
You can shizzle to your civil. I don't know, man. I'm losing it. That's all I got. But let me tell you what's great. Not my horrible faux wrapping. It's DigitalOcean's interface. They have an intuitive interface which power users can replicate on a much larger scale with DigitalOcean's straightforward API. They just released their new version 2, and it's crazy. Like, I keep hearing about what things people do, and I'm like, God, I wish I was that smart. And then I remember I'm lazy, and that's okay because tons of other people are smart.
That's right.
And they've already made great apps for me to take advantage when I'm using DigitalOcean. You can take snapshots, you can destroy your machine, and you feel like a boss, too. It feels like a James Bond villain when you click that delete button. You notice that?
Yeah. And then you can hit scrub data. My data is secure. I would like it erased.
Take that, NSA. That's right. I'm a baller. Yeah. So and then they have DNS management, one-click applications. They have a ton of distributions for you to choose from, including FreeBSD if you hate yourself. And they've also got I'm kidding. FreeBSD is great. And they've got Core OS, which is really top-notch. And I really recommend you check that out. This is where I have my own cloud instance, and we're using my own cloud instance up on DigitalOcean to synchronize all of the media production files. So like all the lower thirds you're seeing or any of the art assets that we use during the production of the live stream, we're syncing between my laptop and the OBS broadcast machine using a DigitalOcean droplet powered by OwnCloud for $5 a month. And when you use our promo code LASTDigital, you get that $10 credit. You can try that out 2 months for absolutely free. Do it, people. DigitalOcean.com. Check it out.
I don't even know how we would have done this. We got here, and of course we didn't have time to do all the little minutia like lower thirds and stuff, and so we're ready to go on the air, and I'm like, Chris, I need art assets. And you're like, hey, it's no problem. I'm just going to drop it in your own cloud folder, and I was in the repo, so I add own cloud.
Yeah. That's a really nice thing when you're working with when you're working with Linux on all ends. It's just a quick installation away, and you have the own cloud client, and you're up and going, and nothing extra need to be done. It's wonderful.
And the other thing is too is even with the brief experience we had with Angela's Mac, it was simple things like moving files from one computer to the other was such a pain because Mac doesn't do XT4 and Linux doesn't really do HFS, and so there's like this weird thing. And now I take my encrypted thumb drive, I stick it in this box. It just works.
Yeah, buddy. Speaking of something else that we're using here on production, Noah, give him a chat room shot there, would you, buddy? Hold on. Let's hear the announcement.
Stop by the raffle booth and get your raffle tickets for some awesome prizes. Also, don't forget that we've got T-shirts for sale, so pick up your 20.
So they're doing raffles here. Yesterday they raffled off a lot of really good stuff here at LinuxFest, but one of the things they raffled off, did you guys see, yesterday they raffled off NT4? Did you see that? They gave away NT4 workstation yesterday in part of the raffle? Yeah, that's a crazy one. So they're giving away all kinds of weird stuff here, but they are giving away like Chromebooks and like an Ubuntu phone and things like that. All right, so let's talk about our desktop epic. So you see the chat room shot here if you're watching the video version of Linux Action Show. This is Noah's go-to IRC client. And so I really probably shouldn't tell anybody more about it. What's it called, Noah, and why do you love it?
IRSSI, and here's why I like it. I spend a disproportionate amount of my time in the terminal.
Yeah, you do.
And so it's one of those things where if I have the lowest common denominator, it makes it really easy for me to not have to think about some things. And so I can install IRSSI. I run it kind of like you run Quassel, Chris. I have it on a dedicated computer.
Yeah.
And it maintains a persistent connection to...
And you do like a screen session?
I do a screen session.
Yeah.
And so when I get here, I can SSH from any computer that, even if I don't have a UI,
right.
I can SSH into my computer. I pull that screen session down, and then it's there. And then
so you have an always running logs then?
Yeah, and then the other thing I have that I really like is inside of my house, I have a dedicated box that's running Awesome Window Manager, and I can full screen my terminal, and I bring up my screen session. I have IRSSI. Now, some people say, "Oh, it's not fully featured," and that's just simply not true, Chris. Because if we look here, I can load plugins to give me colorful
and
nicknames.
There's themes too. I mean, it's all console based, so it doesn't get too fancy.
Right.
But there's lots of themes you can load. There's lots of plugins to do automated functionality, right? So, any you use particularly?
I have the Nick Colors plugin used, and then I use a plugin called Highlight, which gives me 2 windows essentially. And the first window gives me all of my highlights, so I can, so if somebody. And then the nice thing is it scrolls up at the top, so kind of like you have Quassel set up to do. So I can maintain a connection to 100 and some rooms and jump to any one of those anytime I mention instantaneously.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like you said, if you're on the terminal a lot, it's handy. Or if you have a drop-down terminal like Uake or Quake or Tilde, it's a great little IRC client to drop in there.
Absolutely.
All right, so that's RISSI, and you can find it over at rssi.org. We'll have a link in the show notes. You probably already know about it, but it was one of those that we've used it here in production today.
Right.
It was like a make good.
Yeah.
Because we haven't really picked it before, and it's your favorite IRC client. So, all right, now this is something I came across this week that I thought you guys might find interesting. Are you familiar with the old Red Alert and Command & Conquer? Did you guys ever play Command & Conquer? Yeah, Command & Conquer, right? Yeah? Yeah, did you play it? Or Red Alert or any of those games? Yeah. Yeah, the Tesla coils are badass. Yeah, so here's the thing. No more, right? It's like they don't make it anymore. But open source is here to save the day. It's a project called OpenRA, and it is a back-end engine that makes all of these games sort of possible again. Even browser-based games, and there is some demos. Now, they're not perfect, but there is some really good-looking demos of some of those classic games that we all loved sort of brought back to life using this engine. And some people have, like, bootlegged art assets that they're loading on top of the engine, so it's like the real game, and other people have like really nice mock-up stuff, and so it's called OpenRA. And if you're into this kind of stuff, and you can see they've redone the UI quite a bit, and all these things to kind of make it look a lot like your old favorite games. And it is a bit rough. It is a bit rough, but this kind of stuff, it always makes me so excited. And with a little bit of time, this might be a pretty good replacement. So anyways, you can find it at openra.net, and of course we'll have a link in the show notes. I loved this stuff growing up. Like Dune 2000 was another great one. They're making that work again. They have 53 contributors, 1,000 commits to the project, lots of stuff going, more than 2,000 files, 210,000 lines. One of their busiest development cycles just happened. They just wrapped up with a brand new release yesterday, I believe. Yes, no, 2 days ago. Brand new release 2 days ago, so I wanted to give them a little attention in our open source project. Spotlight, OpenRA.
See, these are the kind of games that I can get into. And I don't do a lot of the big Steam stuff, but there are things from my childhood that I'm like, man, I'd love to pick that back up and play with that a little bit.
This is a killer game to play with a mumble room.
Uh-huh. Oh, really?
Yeah. So that'd be a good...
I know what I'm doing this week.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know what I'm doing this week.
All right, Noah. Well, let's do the news.
Hey, it's the news, and this episode is brought to you by...
Ting.com. Go to last.ting.com. Go there right now. You'll save $25 off your first device, or if you already have a Ting-compatible device, broski, you'll save off your first month of service or more. $25 actually paid for more than my first month. What is Ting? Ting is mobile that makes... Come on, you guys know this? It's mobile that makes sense. Everybody knows that, right? It's mobile that makes sense. You only pay for what you use. It's a flat $6 a month for the line. And then it's just your minutes, your message, and your megabytes after that. Whatever you use, that's all you have to pay with Ting. And the great thing is Ting also has no-hold customer support. They have an incredible online dashboard. And now they also have a wide GSM network and CDMA network. So here at the Fest, I'm on the GSM network, and I'm full bars.
Yeah. You know, and you were talking earlier today about how this fest has been so much different than other fests because you've gotten to the point now where you can communicate with all of your people because all that goes through data, and you have amazing data coverage inside of this building.
I love it. It's been super handy. It's been really, really great for connectivity when we're coordinating. And the fact they only pay for what I use means this month I'll pay a little more, and most months I save so much money on overall. I've saved over $2,000 over the last 2 years. Go to last.ting.com, last.ting.com. That'll support this show and get you over there. You can also check out their savings calculator. And Noah, it wouldn't be a news segment without an app pick from Kyra. She's got something here. I'm not sure what it's called. Cheeky, I think. I haven't seen this one before. Noah, are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Let's check out Kyra's app
this
pick.
is the Ting app of the week. The first step to recovery is admitting you have a problem. Checky will help you get your smartphone addiction under control. It shows you how often you wake your device every day. Be warned though, you might not like what you discover. Checky tracks and displays your daily patterns on a single, simple page. Below that, you can view how often you looked at your device the previous day, along with a bar graph of the past week. If you want to keep your tech obsession in check, check out Checky. It's available for free on Android and iOS. Links are directly below this video. Thanks for watching, and click that subscribe button for more useful apps, unboxings, Ting tips, and more.
Thanks, Kyra. Go to last.ting.com to get started. Ting is mobile that makes sense, my mobile service provider, and Noah's mobile service provider. And, of course, it should be your mobile service provider, too. Right, Noah?
You know what?
I'm just telling them. I'm giving you this is I'm watching you.
I know.
Are you switching to Ting?
Hey, wait, hold on.
Eyes on you.
Is the internet in there?
Yeah, dude, they're right there.
Wow. How
I know.
How do you get them all
And
to fit
look
in
at
that tiny little box?
all of them should try Ting because
They
it's
should.
really cool.
You know what's selling a lot of people on Ting? Oddly enough, it's not the $700 or $800 smartphones. It's actually my $29 little dollar.
Yeah, people love
thing.
that.
I mean, every time I pull it out,
Yeah, people
like,
love
that's so
that.
small. How do
Yeah.
you use that? And then
Fits in the wallet.
I've charged it one time. I think it finally died the entire time I've been here. But I've also put a lot more use on it than I usually do.
Yeah.
That's been the way that Sarah and I have been
It's
communicating.
the bat line with the wife.
Well, because it keeps my other phone blows up
Right,
constantly.
and it's constantly getting drained as well. Let's talk about something awesome that just happened. We're going to be chatting with somebody that works for the Debian project in just a little bit, but before we do that, let's celebrate Debian 8.0. Debian Jessie has been released, and it's official after about 2 years of almost consistent and constant hardcore Debian-style development. Hoo-wee! Well, the new version is now out. Of course, it has improved UEFI support. It defaults to systemd for the init system, and as always, everybody, tons and tons of package updates. So congratulations to Debian again. Always exciting to see a release from the Debian project. Yeah. So many things built off Debian that if you don't mention it, it's like disrespecting your elders.
Yeah. And Debian is one of those. I see Debian as one of those crotchety distros where like that.
Wow,
like
dude.
Not in a bad way, but just like the people that want to install once and they don't want to touch it and they want to sit at a very stable platform for a very long time.
Sure.
And honestly, Chris, I fall more into that boat than I do the Arch boat. Where because I like things to just.
So you're saying you're old and crotchety?
Yeah,
okay.
basically.
I'll go with that. I'll go with that. I think it's a legitimate. I think old crotchety is a legitimate use for it too.
Yeah.
So then, if you want something a little fresher, but also maybe a little familiar, Ubuntu 15.04 released this week, based off Debian, of course, to see you get the reference there. So we've got all of our favorite flavors of Ubuntu now available. Kubuntu 15.04 with a video is up. Ubuntu GNOME Edition 15.04. Rockin with the latest GNOME 3.14 updates. Yeah, I said GNOME 3.14. Lubuntu 15.04 and our buddy Ubuntu Mate 15.04. Ubuntu Mate is one of our favorites, and in fact, that's what we're using on our production rig. Not 15.04, we're using 14.04, but Ubuntu Mate nonetheless. A fantastic release of the Mate desktop environment. It really, I think, is shining in this one. The guys have added some really nice compiz effects. They're just a click away. You can do the layout decorator just one click away. In fact, so much, I'll link to it in the show notes as well. So much is going on that Web Update did a big write-up on it. And I recommend you guys go over and check out Web Update's write-up on it too, as well as OMG Ubuntu. But you get VLC replacing Totem. You got Tilde for the drop-down terminal. You've got the layout generators. It's really good. They're using LightDM for the GTK greeter, which makes desktop switching a possibility under Ubuntu Mate now. And like I said, not just compiz, but also support for GNOME client-side decorations in Mate.
Right.
So Ubuntu Mate 15.04, I think, is an exciting release of all of this. You've also got Xubuntu and Kylin released, which also look really great.
The thing is, Ubuntu Mate, I can't stop talking enough good things about Ubuntu Mate simply because I use it so much. And I can honestly say I don't think anything else even crossed my mind. When we went to load this machine, I knew I wanted the desktop to get out of the way and be as low resource as possible, because I wanted to save those resources for all of the camera stuff that we were going to be doing.
Yeah.
And so I just
keep it lean and mean, right?
And the thing is, we're at 36% CPU utilization, and that's with 1, 2, 3, 4, four capture devices.
Yeah.
You know, and plus the audio.
Yeah.
Plus, I'm doing a transfer right now,
Yeah.
and I've got all of those and 36.6. I mean, that's impressive.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you very much. I think it's been a perfect release. The LTS is the perfect balance, and yeah. Hey, Matt, do you want to join us before we wrap up the news segment? Let's have Matt come over and join us real quick.
That'd be outstanding.
We'll have Matt jump in and get his. You know, Matt's been coming here for years, so I'm sure he's got some impressions of LinuxFest Northwest. So Matt, grab that headset right there, so that way you can hear us, because it ges a little loud up in this business. So, Matt, you've been coming. You're like I'm not going to say an old salt, but you're kind of a LinuxFest old salt.
He is a seasoned LinuxFest enthusiast.
Yeah.
Yes, that is correct.
So, what do you think of LinuxFest Northwest so far this year? Has this been?
This year has been definitely. I would say it's comparable with last year. Definitely busier than the year before. Mm-hmm. And then looking historically back at actually where everything has gone, it's amazing, because I remember back when you really didn't have this kind of volume.
Yeah, for sure.
It was
right?
a totally different world.
It was a couple hundred people, and then
really
a few
was.
hundred people, and now it's thousands, maybe 2,000.
I
don't
would
know.
say 1,500 plus.
Yeah.
Give or take. Yeah.
The estimate, I think, it was 1,400 last year. I think was the estimate, right?
I believe so.
And this is bigger.
Oh, yeah. No, easily. And even for Sunday, this is busier on a Sunday. Historically, Sundays are a slower day.
Yeah, they're the slower day.
Yeah, and
what's your take on the pulse of the community? Do you see any changes overall? You think it's? What do you think? Like any evolutions in the user base and things like that?
Microsoft is becoming much slyer in their getting you to participate, being they are a sponsor this year.
Yeah, that is a big thing. In fact, I think we're going to talk. I think we're going to spend a little time talking to them, because
cool.
It seems like they are like the biggest presence here.
Yeah, I think change in management. There's definitely been a shift in the way that they're perceiving things and the way they're being interacted with. So that's really cool, because I know in previous years it was kind of a cold shoulder for them.
Yeah.
This year the reception's been much warmer, so that's cool.
Yeah.
I think the cotton candy helped with that.
The cotton candy, and also if you wanted to go to the after party, you're talking with them.
Yeah, you had to go to their. Yeah, you had to go to their booth to go to the after party.
Which, you know what? I as a marketing guy, I give them props for that. I really do. It's like, hey, you know what?
That was pretty smart, huh? Yeah, that was a good move.
Very smart.
It's very clever.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
Well, Matt, so 2 days worth of it, and every year I think I'd say it again. I'd come again. I would do it again.
Oh yeah, I've been coming off and on for years, and every year it never ceases to disappoint. No matter what.
Yeah, I'm still not getting into the sessions, but other than that, I'm pretty happy. Camping.
No, the sessions is one of those things to where you're either really on track with what you want to listen to, or maybe you're not the right candidate to watch. It just depends.
Well, that's part of it, and I think the other thing is it kind of sort of goes against what you and I are trying to accomplish here, right? The whole idea of coming to this is to get out, shake hands, meet people, talk to people.
Yeah. You don't do that in sessions, really.
And the other thing is too is, and they're not even a sponsor of the show, is I have Linux Academy for that now. What I used to go to get a lot of my information, I'm now doing a lot of that from Linux Academy.
Yeah.
That is true. I mean, there's certainly a benefit from Meet Space. Like I was thinking about Blender, they're doing a Blender presentation here. Catching something like that might make sense, but especially if you have like direct questions and you really want to make that individual contact.
Right.
But I think it works in
that
conjunction with Linux Academy, and that you're able to kind of plug in both methods, both long-term and immediate.
Sure. Well, Matt, I hope you have a great rest of the show, and we'll be kicking around for a little while still. We have a little bit more show left, so thank you, sir, for stopping by and chatting with us.
Bye.
All right, so that'll be it for the news segment of the Linux Action Show. We're going to collect any more news that drops in between now and when this show came out, and we'll cover that in the catch-up segment on Linux Unplugged on Tuesday. But Matt just hinted the Microsoft booth is undeniably the largest presence here, and I normally wouldn't say it, but I think it's time the Linux Action Show sits down and talks with Microsoft. We're going to have a chance to chat with a few folks from the floor of LinuxFest Northwest 2015 from the beautiful Pacific Northwest here in Bellingham, Washington. Man, I love saying that. But first, I've got to talk about our segment sponsor, System 76, and we have something kind of cool to share with you guys today. System 76 hooked us up with one of their Meerkat desktop computers. The whole computer fits in this box, and it has a really cool custom art. Works, and the Meerkat is powering the display that you can't quite see behind us. It's just out of the camera shot. And it's been driving visuals for the booth all fest.
It's been running like a boss.
Yeah. So System 76 has a bunch of great rigs designed to run Linux for you, so that way they save hassle when you have to reload the rig or anything like that. All the drivers work. Everything's just fine. It's a really great experience. Go to system76.com and get yourself a fantastic PC and tell them the Linux Action Show sent you. No, I'm super excited to welcome Mark to the Linux Action Show. Mark Hill is the VP of Open Source Sales and Marketing at Microsoft, and undoubtedly Microsoft has had a huge presence at the Fest this year, Mark, so welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Chris. I'm very happy to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's start with, you guys have a heck of a presence. I mean, you're giving out cake, cotton candy, sponsoring beer at the after party. So Microsoft seems to be pretty interested in making a good splash here. What's going on there?
Yeah, well, you know, it's a new world. It's a new world.
It seems so. Like maybe it really truly is.
It's a new world, and I'm very pleased to be the first guy at Microsoft to ever have the title of open source sales and marketing.
That is pretty impressive, isn't it?
We're actually building a very large business around open source at Microsoft. We're investing heavily into open source technologies to run on our cloud, on our Azure cloud. And you know, our mission at Microsoft is to go and help customers build their cloud environments. And so when you look at what customers have today, there's they've got a mixture, a whole environment of everything that they've acquired over the last 20 years. And so if we want to be a true cloud provider, we've got to provide first-class services across every technology, including Linux and open source solutions. And so that's what we're investing in.
And how much of a culture adjustment is it? So when I think of it seems like on the face of it, it's pretty much it's enabling Azure to answer a custom need. A customer need. And that seems pretty straightforward on the face of it. But internally, it seems like that would constantly be coming up with project conflicts or things that would seem like maybe it would sort of conflict with the general nature of the internal development cycle at Microsoft. Sort of not anti-competitive, but in a sense, sort of enabling technology stacks on Linux, in a sense, means that it might enable somebody to choose not to use Windows. That must have been a transition culture-wise.
Yeah, I can tell you at an engineering level, right from our CEO, Satya Nadella, down, there is no debate about this whatsoever. You know, he's said many times we shouldn't write a line of code that hasn't already been written, or that has already been written. And so you see a lot of the solutions that we're bringing out on Azure are open source solutions. So think of our big data solution, HD Insight. It runs on Linux, it runs on Windows. It's just purely Hadoop that we've taken and making as a service. And so we keep doing that. From an engineering point of view, it's very, very clear. So now, to be clear, it's going to take a while for all of the folks in sales and marketing at Microsoft who've been selling Microsoft solutions to change. And that's what my job is to go and change that.
If I may ask, what did you do before you went to...
Okay. Before I took this role.
Yeah.
So I'm a long-term, I've been at Microsoft 23 years. And so I've run geographies. I ran the Africa business for Microsoft. I've worked in the security group. I've run part of the enterprise business. I've been all over the company, mainly in a sales and marketing capacity. And the reason I was asked to take this role is because I'm kind of a change agent in Microsoft. I do a lot of kicking butt, making people change, getting people to see a light. And so my job is to get our company, our sales and marketing folks, to understand what we do, how this adds value to our platform, and how to talk to customers about it.
What drives you to Linux? What is it that kind of lights the fire that you say? You said you were really pleased to be the first person to have that title. Why is it that open source and Linux, I suppose, particular, we're at a Linux Fest, is so important to you?
Well, it's all about customers. You know, I'm a customer guy. We go to customers and we want to go and satisfy their needs. Hey, I've got now a full toolbox to go and meet their needs, and that's purely it.
So it's not so much any particular technology in general. It's the customer wants this, and that's where the demand is. So Microsoft is going to meet the demand. Is that?
We're going to meet the demand and make a great job of it, giving them the most secure place to put their Linux solutions. Going to customers who are battling to scale their MySQL database running on Linux, putting it on Azure and doing clustering and geo-replication, for example. So, you know, it's helping customers do what they need to do.
What about integrating? So going back to that was an interesting line. Satya says, essentially, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. If there's code already written, we don't need to write another line of it. Does that also mean that Microsoft is looking at ways of adopting open source internally, so building Microsoft products on top of open source or around open source?
Yeah, so that's worth a more deeper follow-up with the appropriate folks at Microsoft. But we have changed the way our internal rules and internal approach to building software. We now have a project management group that helps all of our developers actually start using open source appropriately.
Really?
You know, we're doing so much work around open source. We've got to we've got this group that professionally manages that shows people how to do it, how to contribute back, how to take code and put it in appropriate products.
Yeah.
If you think about what we do around Hadoop, if you think about .NET, we took .NET and we open sourced that. So how do we keep building on that? You know, we're building an open source product.
Right.
So the answer is definitely yes. We use open source for our products. We contribute to open source projects, and at the end of the day, a lot of that runs on Linux, and we got to make sure Linux runs as a first-class citizen on all of our cloud properties.
So what's sort of the next move? It seems like community involvement's a big part of it, being here at the fest, reaching out to people and kind of saying, this is what we're interested in, this is what we do now. So it seems like messaging is the current phase. Is there sort of a next thing on the horizon to sort of moving forward?
We're putting, the way we run our business around the world is we have these business group leads that run the various products segments the various products that we make at Microsoft. We're putting in open source leads in every subsidiary. And I'm hiring them around the world, and their job is to we've got a set of products we sell. We've got a set of solutions that we go and offer customers.
So what does that mean? What does that mean exactly? So in major areas of the company will have an open source advocate?
Yeah, so every subsidiary, every country in the world has a Microsoft subsidiary that
will be
engages with
the
customers.
Chief open source.
And there we have an open source lead who's in charge of the open source business.
Okay.
And they talk to all the sales people and the technical people and the services people in country, train them about our open source offerings, and then help them go to customers and talk to customers about it.
Fascinating. That is really encouraging then. So it really is truly a company worldwide effort.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it seems like a huge ship to turn for a worldwide company.
So if you think of our Azure cloud business, it's a massive business, billions of dollars. 22% of that today runs on 22% of all the cycles that run on Azure every day comes from a Linux operating system already.
Do you see that growing?
Oh yes. There's a huge demand out there, and it's a demand. Customers say, "Hey, I got this landscape. I got all this this infrastructure.
Right.
I want to move to the cloud, whether it's Windows or Linux." To answer your earlier question, this is not about trying to convince someone to go to use a Linux server or use a Windows server. That's already been chosen by customers. It's about now helping them deploy that effectively.
Right.
And quite frankly, in the year I've been in this role, I've never been in a situation ever where it's been a conflict with a Microsoft product or an open source solution. It's just the customers we engage with have already chosen that. It's about how to get it done now.
Yeah.
We've still got a lot of products at Microsoft. We'll continue to sell. We're a successful business. Now we just got a bigger business.
Right. That's fascinating too, because as Azure takes off, Microsoft's really in a good position to sort of bridge the old Windows on-premise sort of home turf advantage and the cloud advantage.
Yep.
And a lot of those people that were looking at sort of going off-premises to the cloud were probably considering a transition to Linux at that time potentially, and so Azure is there to sort of fill that need.
And we provide this hybrid cloud approach where you can put your solutions, some of it in the cloud, some of it on-premise. And with our new management solutions we got now, whether it's Linux or Windows, you can manage that hybrid movement between the cloud and also to AWS and Google.
And what about managing multiple distributions like Red Hat and Ubuntu?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's our mission to be able to make every Linux distribution a first-class citizen on a Microsoft cloud, and we invest heavily in that.
Do you release which distributions are the most popular on Azure?
We don't do that, but it's. I'll tell you now. Kind of mimicking the market.
Yeah.
Azure mimics the market, so whatever is out there. So you find Ubuntu is by volume is the most popular, I would say.
Okay.
But there's certainly when you have.
And is that in the millions of instances?
Yeah, there's certainly millions.
Yeah, I would think so. That was a shame. Yeah.
There's a lot.
Many millions.
Many millions.
Okay.
There's a lot.
Many millions. All right.
Yeah, there's a lot. When you look at cloud infrastructure like Azure, it's just humongous.
Yeah,
it
sounds like it boggles the mind.
Yeah, and the whole point is to be able to bring out the management suite so that
make
you
it
can
manageable,
manage it on whether it's whatever distribution of Linux or Windows, manage it on premise and in the
it's
cloud.
all web based, so you can manage it from a Linux machine too.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Cool.
So. And then also, but just to be clear, also making sure that you can move these instances to AWS or Google if you want to.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so our intention is to be a cloud provider that allows the customers to do what they need to.
So the instances are portable?
Yeah.
That's really cool too. Well, Mark, if people are watching and they want to know more about this, where would you recommend they check out?
So I suggest you can go to microsoft.com/openness. And there's our site there. There you can get hold of us at Open at Microsoft on Twitter. you know, and just simply go to the site. You can ask us questions, and we can, or go if you're around the world listening to this. Every Microsoft subsidiary has now got an open source lead. Just contact them; they'll point you to them.
That's some great news.
And we'll take you to one of our seminars. We'll bring you in. We'll chat with you.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much,
Well,
Mark.
thank you so much for giving us the opportunity. To
We
talk
really
to your
appreciate
listeners.
it.
Yeah, keep up the great work. It's fun.
Thank you.
Good seeing you.
Sure.
They had cotton candy at their booth, which was a hit.
Yeah, it was. They went all out. I mean, and you know, it's funny because if I was Microsoft, I'd be a little afraid to show up to LinuxFest Northwest.
Well, each year they kind of step it up a bit more. And oh, you got OpenRA working? Nice. Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. So here you go. If you mind putting the headset on, that way you can hear us okay, and we'll be able to hear you. So we have our next guest, and now are you actually with Microsoft, or are you with the Debian project?
I do both.
You do both. So you work at Microsoft. Is that a recent development?
No, I've been with Microsoft since 2010.
All right. So Jose Miguel, right?
Yes.
Welcome to Linux Action Show. It's great to have you here. I know I've heard your name online many times, and so can you tell the audience a little about what you do for the Debian project and Microsoft?
Sure. So I've been working with Debian since 2005 or so. I decided to join as a developer around 2007. I started with XMMS.
Cool.
And then I brought Nginx to Debian. Now there's a team behind it.
Yeah.
I've been doing some other stuff in Debian. I have some other packages there. Special interest on Perl programming, and also developing local communities when I was based out of Latin America. And then 2010 I joined Microsoft to do open source strategy, and I moved here to the
Pacific Northwest?
Washington State, yeah.
So as a Linux user, what made you decide to take a job at Microsoft? Were you trepidatious about that, or did it seem like a slam dunk at the time?
It seemed like a challenge, and it still is.
Really?
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting to be having these conversations, not just generally about open source, but specifically about Debian. When I moved to the U.S., I realized, you know, the realities in Latin America where Debian is something that is considered broadly across the board by customers. It's not like that here. You know, you have a stronger RPM community, and there, you know, if you don't want to pay for your Linux, then you have CentOS or Fedora. And,
you have Ubuntu out there that's pretty strong too over here.
Correct, but that's been more of a recent development. You know, part of my I do a lot of things with regards to open source at Microsoft, but part of you know, one of the things I enjoy the most is talking about Debian, talking about the APT, talking about package development. It's
interesting because Debian being a non-commercial distribution, it seems like it wouldn't naturally get a lot of attention inside Microsoft.
Yeah, it's so let me start by saying that customers want it, therefore, you know, we'll do it. But it poses some challenges because Microsoft's used to working with partners to get things done.
Right. Yeah. Who do they interface with? And
correct.
Yeah.
And, you know, the canonical. You know, what's the canonical of the Debian space, and you know, you have that kind of company for SUSE, for CentOS, etc. But you don't have it for Debian.
Right.
However, there's strong community demand as well, and you'll see it on BM Depot, for example, which is where Azure users bring community images.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So you'll see a bunch of Debian stuff there as well.
So what is that? So you started really before Microsoft was publicly talking very much about open source and Linux. I mean, they were, but maybe still in somewhat of a negative connotation, really. It was sort of transitioning when you joined, but how is that, watching that from the inside? You see a big change from the inside? Because it seems like a change from the outside.
Yeah, so a lot of people tell me, look, you have a fifth of your cloud customers today using Linux, so you have a story, and then you can, you know, go and talk about Linux and open source more freely. What did you talk about 5 years ago? The conversation was about standards. It was about document format, if you remember the entire OpenXML ODF discussion of 2007 or so.
Right.
And then after that discussion, you know, OpenXML was made an ISO standard, yet the Office 2007 Service Pack 2 and all the future versions of Office came to support ODF as well. And today, you know, if you get a new computer, Windows 8, you'll get WordPad, for example, with ODF support. So, you know, the easiest way to open an open Office or LibreOffice produced document today in Windows is a Microsoft product. So it's really interesting. So yeah, the conversation has been evolving. We didn't have Azure back then.
Yeah.
Then we had like this Azure thing, which was really PaaS first, and you had to use Visual Studio to package your application. There was some PHP support, but it wasn't really what the customers wanted.
Right.
Then there was the VMs, and now there's this broad thing where you can be consuming machine learning solutions in the cloud using R and Python. It seems normal.
It seems like when it comes to Microsoft's adoption of and implementation of Azure and Linux, it almost seems like Microsoft has moved unfathomably fast in a way that I've never seen the company move before. So I think the rest of the public is sitting up going, nah, this can't be real.
Well,
because Microsoft doesn't move that fast, they don't change on a dime like that. They wouldn't just change their tune like that. That's not how it happens.
Yeah.
Big companies like that don't change.
It's only been just a couple of years, and you talk about Ubuntu being a recent project, right? And that's we're talking 10 years or so.
Yeah.
So I mean, and that in some ways, I'm happy to hear that, because if you consider Ubuntu to be a recent project, that means that you've obviously been in line with Linux for much longer than that, right?
Yeah. Well, the credit for the pace of innovation is not Microsoft; it's open source. There's just a lot of innovation in the open source software and open hardware space, open standard space, open cloud space, etc. That it forces companies and customers to make decisions more rapidly.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So is there very much open source behind Azure? I mean, besides the operating systems that run on it, is there? I assume it's probably mostly like a Hyper-V platform, but is there some open source that orchestrates Azure to some degree that you know of?
Well, there's value in abstracting the operating system and the hypervisor layer for customers. But what we think it's attracting open source practitioners to Azure is the fact that you can go beyond the VM. So you have the VM, you can do whatever you want in your Linux VM, but you can also grab from things that you need. Let's say you need Active Directory. In the past, you would have to roll Windows Server, install primary domain controller, use Kerberos and LF. Now you have Azure AD. It's SAML, OAuth, WS Federation.
Active Directory is just a service that you can have.
And it's a web, you don't have to use those protocols anymore. You don't have the compatibility issues of the past and whatnot. So that's what's really exciting. When you talk about open source in Azure, I see, it's beyond the VM. The layer where it runs is still going to be abstracted, and it's going to be a highly optimized version of Windows Server, Hyper-V, Nano Server, the things that are coming in the future. But there's those open source hooks across all the components of the platform today.
So going back to Linux and at Microsoft a little bit, do you run Linux at your desktop at Microsoft?
I do.
And is that very common? Like you say, there's a handful of people, or there are hundreds of people? What's that picture like?
It's somehow common. People think we all use Explorer and we're forced to use Bing, etc. It's pretty much whatever you need to get the job done, as long as it's reasonable. There's a strong Mac community, and there is a growing Linux community.
And if you're going to run Linux, is there like a Microsoft, like we want you to run Ubuntu this, or is it whatever you're comfortable with?
There's no Microsoft Linux, if that's the question. But most people use Ubuntu. Also, it's when you talk about Yammer, Skype, Nokia, all those companies that came into market, they're all Linux users, right? And they all have Ubuntu in their desktops or any,
So some of those companies came in running Linux.
Correct.
So how do you deal with the applications that are specifically written for Windows? So, for example, Microsoft Office, there's no Linux port, right? And I would assume that inside a company that makes an Office suite, you would be using that Office suite. So you're telling me that on your desktop, working at Microsoft, you can't use the products that Microsoft makes. How does that work inside of the? I mean, it must make kind of difficult to email documents back and forth.
Well, it's all browser, and so obviously Exchange and Outlook, it's a browser application. Okay. But even PowerPoint, Excel, and Word are browser applications that run on Linux, and it's actually supported for our customers as well. So we do a lot of that. There are challenges. So Link, it's a tool we use for unified communications.
Yes.
Codecs and support that's specific to Windows and Mac.
Right.
There's a lot of you can use your phone, your desk phone, you can use your cell phone to work around it. But there are new versions of Link that we're not calling Skype for Business. There is that kind of like browser support for rich audio-video conferencing.
Okay.
Interesting.
So do you see Microsoft in the future getting to a point where they say, listen, because open source is getting so important to us and because people are using it on the desktop at Microsoft, now it's time to maybe get some of those applications over, like not just a web port, but actually getting like native applications? Do you see that happening in the future maybe?
Well, still, numbers still come in, and there was a recent U.S. government survey, I think, on what's being used in government desktops here in the U.S. and said, it kind of mirrored what we know. It's like 2% of the PC market, etc. So there's still, I think, going to be a lot of attention put to those numbers. However, there's no reason why, if it's working in the browser, there's no reason why you should cripple it for Linux or for any other platform. You should be a rich experience for it. So I do expect more of that. I also think that acknowledging those Linux users is something that's happening today. And you'll see it, you're seeing it in the phone, for example, right? Like, Office for Android and that type of things.
Yeah.
There are some basic blocks that need to be in place. .NET needs to be able to run on Linux, and we need to have a compiler with a decent framework and all that stuff.
So that stuff's happening now, really?
That stuff's happening now. The builds are passing for Linux in a bunch of .NET projects, and we expect the Mono project, it's a strong partner to kind of pick up on those pieces we're open sourcing as well.
Cool.
And we kind of rely on the community. Those news are more exciting to the .NET community, the Microsoft community, than the rest of the open source community. But it's
an important infrastructure piece, though.
Correct.
Well, is there anything else you want to touch on?
Look, we're really glad to be here. This is a local event that's really an institution.
Is it a great one, too?
It's great.
Yeah.
We love it. And we're investing more in this Pacific Northwest region, attending the events that might not be technology specific. It might not be a Chef thing, or it might not be a Docker thing.
Right.
It's a general Linux and open source thing. We want to be there as well.
Cool.
As long as we're welcome, we'll be here.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for stopping by. It was a great chat. Fascinating to hear all the work you guys are doing. So keep up the great work with Debian and Microsoft.
Yes,
thanks very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
I could picture myself. I could be. I feel like I'd probably need Outlook, but I could do it. I could do it. I could be at Microsoft running Linux.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd be an island of open source tranquility.
I was gonna say. Well, here's the thing. I wouldn't be an island. I'd be an island, but I'd be an island like spills out all the time.
Right.
Can you imagine putting me at Microsoft? Like, hey, buddy, can you come help me with this problem? Yeah, sure. Hey, I see you're running Windows. Did you want some help?
Yeah, right, exactly. I could see that. Oh, you know what you could do if you want to fix that? Install Ubuntu. Yeah. Right? That would be you'd be so obnoxious everywhere you went. You'd be doing that constantly.
Yeah, it would be terrible.
All right, so Angela is joining us. She's going to give us an update on her Linux switching experience. Hello, Angers.
Hi.
So, do you have the yoga with you today, or?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Do you have it with you right now?
No.
Oh. Okay, well, so for those of you who haven't listened to this week's Linux Unplugged, Angela switched over to from a MacBook running Linux to a Yoga 3 running Linux, and we sold the MacBook on eBay.
Yep, a viewer bought it.
Yeah,
and he wanted to say that he purchased it specifically to support it, and so a huge thank you to him because.
Who is it?
He didn't give a screen. He has his eBay name, and I don't know if he wants that's his.
Okay. Yeah. I thought you said his name.
Because he's probably selling some dirty stuff. So, anyways, what do you think, Ange, of the Yoga 3 and the Linux desktop so far? I know you've been busy I know you haven't had a lot of time.
I really haven't had a lot of time, but it is really cool. I'm really looking forward to doing some touchscreen stuff, which I would have never,
guessed that.
I know, iPads are touchscreen, but I don't know. There's something about my workspace having that ability.
Yeah. Pinch and zoom is cool in the web browser and stuff.
I am going to have to change my default web browser, though, because Firefox doesn't respond to some of the touchscreen stuff.
Right.
I did find that out.
Yep.
Yeah. There is a few things they're working on, but that is a bit of an issue.
Another thing that we need to do is we talked about my edited photos in iPhoto.
Yeah.
Right.
We just imported all of the originals.
Yeah.
But we're going to take the originals that have been edited and move those to the cloud and just import the edited versions. That way I have both available, but I won't have this problem again.
Yeah, that'll be good. And the battery life's been pretty good. The performance has been pretty good. So we'll keep monitoring on it if you have any questions, and we'll update people maybe in Unplugged next week.
Yeah. No.
I just had a 3D selfie scan in a trailer outside.
Yeah? How was that?
It was interesting. There's a big hole in my head, so I have to go back and get scanned again.
Oh. Did you run away so you could come down here and chat with us?
Yeah, I didn't want it. It felt like it took a while. But we got it'll be on Women's Tech Radio. We have the whole interview of it's a new business, so
cool.
It is really cool.
What do you think of the fest this year?
It's great.
You think it's bigger than last year?
It is bigger.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Seems to grow every year.
Today is actually a lot more busy than I expected. Normally people are breaking down their booths by now.
Yeah, we got a good crowd here now, and it seems like the crowd continues to fill in. I wonder if we can get numbers. I might ask Bill over there when you're walking around if we can get some numbers on it.
Before we get too far off the yoga thing, I just wanted to ask, you made an offhanded comment at dinner, and I think it'd be kind of cool to bring it up on the live stream is, you seem to be optimistic that this might actually stick this time.
Well, I think so. Like, if you have followed the last subreddit, I made a post about what's not important to me anymore.
Right, I saw that.
Those two things have been the reason why I've been like, no, I'm not switching. And that was my rated music and my tagged photos. And I have given up on both because my music tastes have changed. My 5-star music is no longer 5-star.
Interesting, yeah, mine too, yeah.
And really, with Pandora and Spotify, like it is moving in a direction where the software is going to choose for me what I want to listen to.
Right.
And that might be okay. So, and as far as the photos, yes, I do have way too many photos. And it's been suggested that I do some sort of embedded
metadata. Yeah, you can write. You can write to the IXIF information.
Yeah, so I might look into seeing how to do that. That way, I can just do it.
Any program.
Yeah.
It's any program.
And that's the smarter way to do it. And I guess iPhoto just doesn't offer the ability to do that.
Well, it's a little riskier every time you write to a file, right? You take some inherent risk, and if it's photos, you want to be extra safe. But the advantage is, if you store it in the file, it's portable.
Yeah.
So the only other thing that I can think of at the moment is I need an alternative for Pixelmator, because the awesome teaser art that I do is both the guys have these cheesy smiles on their face. I do that in Pixelmator right now, so I just need to find a good alternative for that. And there were quite a few good suggestions in the chat room yesterday, but I wasn't logged into it anywhere, so I don't have those.
Okay, yeah,
let me ask you. Tell me what you're talking about, making graphic assets. That's what you're talking about.
Graphic, yeah.
So if anyone hasn't brought up Inkscape, I love the heck out of Inkscape. It's an SVG editor, and what it'll allow you to do is the nice thing about doing everything in SVG is I can make a file. I can make something 100 by 100, and then I want to blow it up to cover the size of the New York Empire State Building. I just drag and click, and everything scales up. So, and that's what I use for all of the graphics for Altispeed, as well as all of the graphics that I did for LinuxFest Northwest.
Like, when you say that, are you talking like as a vector?
It's a vector graphic editor, yeah.
Okay.
But you can save them as JPEG.
Yeah, you can export as
I'm
PNG
sure,
or whatever.
That would be cool, because I do run into the problem where my images are
the
wrong sizes.
Yeah.
So, for example, you gave me the Jupiter Broadcasting logo, and I was able to turn it in. I don't know if you've seen the desktop wallpaper. I was able to do that just by, I put the Jupiter Broadcasting over, a nice wallpaper.
Go to a virtual desktop, can you sure? Go to your, So he made that background.
And that literally took me maybe 15 seconds
to
do.
And it's big.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's big.
I know.
It's big. And it can get bigger because it's an SVG. It scales indefinitely.
That is what she said. All right, so Karita is also being suggested by the chat room, which is one I was going to suggest to you. Karita was also suggested by another viewer who stopped by the booth. People have been taking an interest in your Switch. That's pretty cool.
Definitely.
Yeah, people stop by and ask.
I now I no longer have the Windows key. It's
right. We put the penguin on the live stream yesterday.
Yeah, which is a brilliant.
Yeah.
The booth.
Think Penguin did that.
Yeah.
Pretty
they
smart.
have little tiny penguin stickers,
Pretty
so that
smart.
is now on my Yoga, which is great. I actually prefer it.
Well, just one last note before Ange goes is it was pretty cool. We were able to bring out almost the entire JB crew with just a couple of exceptions, like 3. And back in if you bring up the crowd shot there, back in the far background, the other crowd shot if you have it handy. That's there's Angela. Actually, that works over Angela's shoulder. You see the guy in the blue shirt is Alan Jude, and the other guy that just got covered up as I'm talking about it is Chris Moore. And they're out here. So we've got Chris Moore and Alan Jude out here. And
here comes Q5.
The production, there's Mr. Sis and Paige from Women's Tech Radio is here. And, of course, Angela's here and Matt is here, as well as a lot of the production crew like Blaster and Rotten Corpse and Albert.
And they have been extremely helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you get
awesome.
we were talking about this earlier too. Everyone has their own little niche. Like Alan really knows hardware, and I have wiping off every other operating system, putting Linux down. I have that down to a fine science and then some.
Right.
And so you get us all in the same room, and it's like one person's working on one thing and one person's working on another thing. And
well, it's a double-edged sword, really.
It is, because everyone has.
Everybody's an expert. Everybody's an expert.
But you know what? I think we all respect each other enough to the point that when Alan says, "I'll put this together," I'm like, you know what? Alan puts 15 servers a day together, so we'll let him do that.
And then, of course, at some point, sometimes I just like, all right, everybody, get out of here. I can fix it, but just only if you stop talking to me.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
The Blaster's our salesman.
Yeah, he's over there selling. Yeah. Really well. We sold some swag and gave some swag away and stuff like that.
Leftover swag.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have additional interviews that we've recorded yesterday, and we'll be playing those soon. But that's what we're going to do live here at the show floor, and we'll bring over some other people maybe later and play those on Unplugged, and throughout the other week we'll get those interviews featured. So we had some great chats.
Yeah.
Some really good. We had some great people, and this time I actually got to get up and walk around a little bit and talk to people, which was really nice. I didn't get to go in any sessions, but I heard that some of the sessions were so crowded. They had to turn some people on.
They put people up at the door and said we can't let anyone else in, and that's a good sign. It means Linux in general is growing.
Yep.
So that's gonna work out really well.
So I'm sure we'll give you more info in Tuesday's Linux Unplugged and things like that. So stay tuned for further coverage. But that for right now is the Linux Action Show's look right from the floor of the beautiful LinuxFest Northwest in Bellingham, Washington, Pacific Northwest, Bellingham Technical College, 2015. And that brings us to the end of this week's live broadcast from the beautiful Pacific Northwest at Bellingham Technical College, LinuxFest Northwest 2015. And before we get out of here, Noah, there is a little feedback to cover. But first, I got to plug something for our buddy Matt. He's got a thing going on. Have you seen this? Go over to matthartley.com/t-shirt. Check that out. Look at that shirt right there. Look at that.
That is awesome.
Isn't that neat? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Matt's got a shirt going. He's got a Teespring thing going on right now, so he's got a few days left if you want to go over there, matthartley.com/t-shirt. My PC runs freedom out of the box. I could see you wearing that.
Yeah, I could. My PC does run
get like a small one and wear it real tight, though.
Yeah.
I think the ladies that watch the show would like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So matthartley.com/t-shirt if you want to get Matt's shirt. That's really cool. I like that he's got it on cardstock, too.
Yeah.
See, I can do this with it?
Don't
That's my forehead.
Stop hitting yourself.
That's my forehead.
Don't hit yourself.
All right, instead I will read some email. That's kind of like hitting my forehead. Yeah. Nehemiah D writes in about IT data management. He says, I've been waiting to deploy Odo. No, not the shape-shifting security officer from Deep Space Nine, an open source ERP. It does CRM and CMS. It does a lot of things, and it has an API. It's perfect for the IT data management issue and is probably just enough for managing their customers' IT infrastructure. So he's recommending Odo, and to a previous email we've gotten into the show before, if you're looking for a CMS and a CRM, customer relations management, and CMS customer management system. Gosh, I'm getting out of IT for so long I'm forgetting. And then API, which stands for Apples, Peaches, and Indigo. No, just kidding. Actually, thank you, Nehemiah, for writing that in. That's really great. And I would check it out if I were going to. Odo, O-D-D, or O-D-O-O, sorry, O-D-D-O. All right, Noah, would you like to take Stu B's email about switching to Linux?
Sure.
Mr. Stu B writes in.
Stu B writes in, and he says, I have recently been viewing your Linux Action Show.
Thank you, Stu.
I'm a retired host, a Linux SIG at our local Tampa Bay Computing Society. In the past year, we have successfully switched several Windows XP users to LXDE and Linux Mint.
Thank you.
Using their old hardware. We have some members who have running Linux on previously taxed Windows hardware, and one lone wolf, a high-end Mac user. We recently looked over Chromebooks and decided that most of our users could use these Linux-powered devices and never experience virus or backup problems. The exact same reason I switched people, actually. I just located on a Ubuntu clone called Chromiexum.
Chromiexum? Okay.
Which really looks like Chrome.
I'm going to spell it. It's C-H-R-O-M-I-X-I-U-M.
That's what we should do every time we don't know how to pronounce something.
That's what I was thinking.
Which really looks like Chrome, but also can use local applications. I thought you might want to look and comment. Good luck with switching the wife to Mac. From Mac to Linux, so far I have not succeeded with my son, but I'm interested in your photo editor of choice.
Yeah.
Most of my ex-Windows people come from Picasso.
Well, we just talked about that a little bit with Angela. So Chromium, it's funny that we got this email in because this is sort of perfect timing. We got, I had a conversation with somebody at the stop by the booth and said, have you seen this? It looks like a cross between Chrome OS and a customized Linux desktop.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the screenshots right here, Noah, and if you showed this to me and told me that was Chrome OS, I would absolutely believe it. There's nothing that, I'm not a Chrome OS expert, so nothing out there jumps out at me as wrong.
The thing, what I would rather see, and this is really cool, what I really want to see, though, is I want somebody to come up with a way that I can install other desktops on Chrome OS rather than install
It's
Chrome
called
OS.
Use Ubuntu.
Yeah, right, yeah.
You know?
Basically.
So I don't know. Well, Stu B, thanks for sending that in to us. That's Chromiexum. Chromixium.
That sounds right. Yeah. It's probably wrong.
Probably. So look, the Linux Action Show just got done streaming for like 2 days at LinuxFest Northwest. If you didn't see any of that, we'll have additional coverage, but the place to be was jblive.tv and jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar. We do other live events. We'll probably pre-record next Sunday's Linux Action Show, so we probably will not be live at our regular time next Sunday, so that way we can recoup and rebuild. We will build ourselves stronger, better, and faster. Is that true, Noah?
That is.
Okay, good.
And with 110% more Linux.
Well, I don't know how that's even technically possible, but
or mathematically possible.
Yes, that's what I mean. And so if we're not live on Sunday, we'll still have our regular episode released Sunday. Just go to jupiterbroadcasting.com to find that. Also, linuxactionshow.reddit.com. That's the place to make this show even better. Submit stories, app picks, community discussions, even just your votes and your comments help us put together a better show. And it's sort of an open source show in that regard. linuxactionshow.reddit.com. Go over there and help make it better. We really appreciate it. You can also email the show. Go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/contact and choose Linux Action Show from the drop-down, or email us directly, linuxactionshow@jupiterbroadcasting.com. Noah, is there anything else I'm forgetting?
That's it.
All right. You can also check out Noah at altispeed.com, and you can follow him on Twitter. He's Colonel Linux, and I am Chris LAS on Twitter, which is a good spot, like when we're doing live stuff.
Yeah,
I'm
trying to
tweet more.
Well, trying to get into the Twittersphere myself. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because you were all with your Google Glass, you were all sold on G+.
Right.
I don't even think Google's sold on G+ anymore.
Yeah. No. And so I'm trying to build my Twittersphere.
I had while you were reading that last email, we had one last person stop by.
I noticed.
And I thought you might have noticed that. Yeah. The assimilation project, Resistance is Futile, IT discovery and monitoring. It's improg.org. Look at the URL. It's got ass in the URL. Anyways, he's wearing, it's cool though, because he's got like Borg technology on his face. He's got like a Borg thing on the back, and so it's ass. improj. I can't even say it without laughing. And I don't think he realized we were doing a show.
Assimproj.
A Simproj.
I think it's Assimilate Project. Assimproj.
Okay, so it's not ass improv then. I think that means I'm done doing the show.
I think so.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks so much for doing this week's episode of the Linux Action Show. We'll see you right back here next week. All right, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you good? Okay, all right, thanks. All right, okay, good. Are you guys good, or do you need to get up and walk around again? You're all right? You're good? You're good? All right. When a man has a Coca-Cola. Hello. Check 1 2, check 1 2. Last.ting.com. Go to last.ting.com. Go to last.ting.com. Everybody in the chat room, go to last.ting.com. Let's see if we can bring down the site. Go to last.ting.com on your phone. Hey, everybody, go to last.ting.com. Let's see if we can crash the site. Last.ting.com.
All right.
Last.ting. What?
All right. So now
I like to make my microphone smell like me, so that way I know it's mine.
Yeah, and it also
that one's
discourages
mine.
other users.
I don't want to smell yours, just fresh. But I could smell, when we get them back in the studio, I can smell them. Oh, that is mine, isn't it? That's my mic, isn't it?
That's your mic.
Yeah.
Well,
don't make it stink.
Well, it's
I smell my mic constantly. Because I sure as hell don't. Hoo-wee. I tell you what. Hoo-wee.